gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. Socially Connected 360, episode 9 is in the house. We're all the way up to 9. I got a very special guest with us today. But first, please subscribe. Show us some love. We're everywhere: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Facebook. I mean, you name it, we're there. Today's show is near and dear to me. It's titled You Evolving Now, and we're going to get into that. But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Freshest Earth clothing apparel. My friend Zach, who owns the clothing apparel, God bless him. His father's a little bit sick, so we're gonna give a shout out to him and send some prayers his way. So, but please, by all means, check them out. Freshest Earth, man, they're phenomenal, and we'll make it happen. So, but my guest today is someone that I've been following all the way from. I mean, I'm from Allentown. I knew he worked in Allentown a while back, maybe 20 some years back. But he's someone I've been following online because I think it's the energy, because of the energy that he brings. And obviously, you know, that energy comes to you. My good friend, Andre Young, is in the house. How you been, man? How's everything going?
I'm absolutely fantastic. And Luiz, thank you so much for having me. The introduction is powerful. I hope everybody listening is having a great day. I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. How's the family? I know our show's titled Evolve Now, and that's something that's obviously your brand and everything. But let's talk about that. How's your family? I know your son plays football. Let's, tell the people, man.
It's been great. I love my family. I love my life. And I tell people all the time, it'd be a shame to get to your definition of success and not have people to enjoy it with. So my family is fantastic. My wife, she's just awesome. I am the luckiest man in the world. Honored to be able to live this life with her. My oldest daughter, I got to see her this weekend. She's 21 and she's all over the place. So if you have a 21-year-old, you know how hard it is to catch them. Yeah. So I got to see her this weekend and lock her down for like 5 minutes. It was great to see her. My oldest son, he's 18. And he just got accepted into his second college down in Florida. And he's awaiting Penn State Berks. He played basketball. They really want him. And I'm just super excited for him to be able to live that journey. I was an athlete at every level. And it's so nice when people want you and you get to do your craft still.
Yeah.
My 13-year-old, he is a football player. He's a quarterback through and through, also plays basketball. And it's just been an honor to have people reaching out to him at 13 years old, and the grind that he puts in daily in the gym, doing his workouts every day, taking his protein so he'd be big enough to take these hits and doing the quarterback work. You know, I'm thrilled to watch him do it. And then I have a 1-year-old, so from 21 to 1 years old.
Wow.
And that's my crazy Bob. I call her Crazy Bob. Her name is Sky, and she's just she warms my heart. To have my first child at 24, and then to have my next child at 44, you just pay so much respect and honor the phases of life.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, and you slow down, you're more patient, and you really just take it all in because you know how fast it goes.
Yeah.
And we have a pet pig I have to share with you.
That's awesome. That's dope, man.
Hamilton the pig. So he's a cool little, he's not so little, he's about 200 pounds. He's a cool big dude, and we love him.
That's dope, man. Oh, so that's a couple things I didn't know. Well, I'm the youngest. I will say to the youngest, obviously you coming from a great family. So when you watch this, as you get older, you'll see your dad has evolved. Hence the title of the show, has evolved into this mega figure, right? But you're gonna see this. He's giving his shout out. I won, and you are lucky to be the youngest. I was the youngest, and you're right. My mom did slow down. My older brothers and sisters always were like, "Oh, well, you get away with this, or you get away with that." It's just that they slow down. You slow down. Everything's not 110% when it comes to that. So, well, that's awesome, man. A pet pig, Hamilton.
Ham's the pig, yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So your son, I see him, man, that man got a cannon. I see you throwing the football like nothing.
He works so hard at it, and he's developed over time. He didn't always have the cannon. He had great accuracy. And then whatever your craft is, whether it's professionally at your job, whether it's baking a cake, I say be a nerd about it. And I find so many people that are doing it the way they want. And one of the things I get to teach leaders, employees, people, athletes all over the world is being asked to get great question. Most of us lead and love very lazy. You're going to get better at what you want to get better at, the way you want to get better at it. However, when it doesn't match what the people receiving it needs most, you're busy being busy about to have an adult or child temper tantrum about, look how much I do. So he wanted to get better in certain ways. And then I taught him to get great question. Coach, what do you need me to get better at? And then you marry what you want with what they need. And then that's how we win. And then that's what he did. And, I coached him a lot, trained him a lot. He doesn't fight it. He loves it. He wakes up early to do it. And then adding that coach's aspect of what he needed. He has big dreams. He wants to play for Alabama and university, and he wants to go to the NFL. So I said, let's go.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I see him on Facebook all the time, and I just love that's the energy that you and your family have, and the kids, and it shows even in what we're going to talk about today. So tell me a little bit about because I read your bio. I went on your website, and in my government job, we tend, I'm translating some of my government job, skills to look into folks, right? In a good way, I checked you out. I mean, you got like 24 pages of written blogs. I'm like, my man is working. You got a couple books, but let's talk about this. You were talking about being a therapist. Right? How did that evolve? Did something happen as a young person that you felt like you wanted to help people? Or how did that come about? Because I think that would be the beginning. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no problem. I believe we're all born with a superpower. Some of us ignore it. Some of us don't, evolve it. And I didn't mean to be a therapist. I didn't even like school. My junior year, I probably went to school, no lie, one day a week for half a day. Like, football was my driving force. I went to school. I did what I had to do so I could do what I wanted to do. So that took me into college. And, when you're a teenager, you might be that friend that people reach out to, talk about their relationship problems with and everything. And I didn't really realize that about myself, but I'm on the phone with my friends talking through things.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it until I looked back through my yearbook, those high school yearbooks. This was many years ago.
Yeah, I don't want my yearbook to come out, but yeah.
But I stumbled through it years ago, and I was like, oh my goodness. I didn't realize I was on the peer group committee or something like that, which was helping your peers. Yeah. So I've been doing this, just was never getting paid for it. I fell in love with football, and I really dropped everything. It was only football all the time. Yeah. I almost failed out of college twice, being a knucklehead and, just doing different things. And long story short, I found out how to study for me. And then I bumped into sociology. So that was my major, and it's the study of people. Yeah. And it was the first class in my life, first class ever that I had an interest in. First class that I could sit back and have an opinion on, and we talked. And then as that evolved, okay, well, now I'm about to graduate. Well, I still had aspirations to play football. I worked out for the New England Patriots with the Scouts. I wasn't ready for that transition at that time. I really wasn't. So I wound up getting a job, and I wound up playing football later, but that's a whole different story. So I wound up getting a job. But what job do you get with sociology? You can like sociology all day long. What's the job? Yeah. So I stumbled into working at a residential treatment facility. And at the time I was, doing the summer fun, so the kids stay there all year, but I was in charge of the summer fun. Then I transitioned to working on the unit. And I was, again, connecting with people from the conversations and, more importantly, listening to what was said and wasn't said. So I realized this is something that I really enjoy. And I went back and got my master's in counseling and psychology with a specialty in marital and family therapy. And that's when it really took off. And then for the next 15 years, I was really working in alternative schools, outpatient. I've done in-home, psychiatric wards, things like that. And I really, really loved the profession and thought I would retire doing that. And it was really big for me, changing the experience. Not everybody wanted to come to therapy. Some people are opposed to therapy, especially when you get into marriage counseling. So my big thing was making that first session about them. And even with leadership, you make it about your people. You know, what do you want? Why are you here? What do you want to get out of it? How can I be of service? Have you had this before? What'd you like about it? What didn't you like about it? This is how I work. Let's marry these things together. Now, are you ready to go? So now I'm not frustrated with where I want you to be, where I think you should be, and telling you what to do. And this is more about you, which makes it easier for you to be here. And now we can go at a pace that's comfortable for both. Now, I still need to be able to say some things from time to time that's hard for you to hear. Is that going to be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what's said. And that right there, I really realized it was 80% connection, 20% toolbox. Now you better have the toolbox, because the people who really want to let's go, you better have a toolbox for everyone. So I became a big nerd in that. And I really thought I would retire doing it. I enjoyed it. However, now I'm a professional speaker and author and leadership trainer. So it all worked out.
Man, that's great. Let's hear this. Oh, am I having feedback here? Can you hear me good? I'll edit that.
I can.
All right, cool. So that transition itself is powerful. You know, that shows that you evolved into what you are today, you know. And I think a lot of us struggle with what you said. We don't want to get into that. We don't want to tell our negative stuff in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And by you being able to transition yourself and evolve into that role and understand how to maybe pull that stuff out of people, it's just it's simply amazing, you know. And you mentioned leadership, so this is where I said that it touches into what I really love about leadership, right? I had a mantra called LDG leadership, right? Leadership plus dedication equals growth. And that's something I came up with. It's the initials to my name, Luiz D. Garcia, right? But I basically started that with I would speak to young people in my job, and I would tell them my life story. I would talk about leadership. But it would be more reactive rather than proactive. And I started to say to myself, I need to be proactive about this. I need to go out there and I need to make sure that I got to get to these kids before they even get to me in a negative form or in a reactive form. And so so I can relate with you in the aspect of, you know, the stuff that you're doing now with this leadership, because I was there, man. I was there. I remember getting in front of the schools. I would go to middle schools, high schools, universities, organizations, and teach that mantra, tell my life story, and do all of that. And it was something that I was really proud of. And it transitions into what we're going to talk about today. So you're really big on leadership. You're really big on, I mean, the show today is You Evolving Now. How did that come about? I know that you have, your website is called You Evolving Now. And so what does that mean? I know that you had mentioned meeting, I have it written here, meet the busy person where they are, right? I saw that on your website. What does that mean?
Well, it's a great question. You Evolving Now, the name and the business happened completely by accident. I like to touch base on what you mentioned, and I wrote it. I even wrote it down here. You know, whether you're a therapist, whether you're a helping professional, whether you're evolving, whether it's leadership, it doesn't mean that you are doing everything perfectly. And it doesn't have to. You don't have to. I've had the pain and the privilege of being on the both sides of a lot of things. So I've been a bad husband. Now I'm a great husband. I've been the world's best employee. I turned into the world's worst employee. I've been a rookie leader where you're managing before you know how to lead. And I've been an effective leader. I've had a business. I've been a solopreneur. Being on both sides of a lot of things and respecting different perspectives matters, you know, and it allows some empathy, understanding, but you never dip your standards. So the name You Evolving Now, the business and everything I do happened because I chose to go through with my eyes wide open, the toughest time in my life. So it probably, 13 years ago, something like that. I went through a divorce. So, you know, how are you a marriage therapist or a therapist going through a divorce? Well, because therapists are people too.
Yeah, humans.
You know, and people say they have all of this value of people being married for 40 years. I'm like, well, were they happily and joyfully married for 40 years, or are they sticking it out for 40 years? You know,
That's
so
so true.
when you're on both sides of a lot of things. So long story short, I went through that toughest time. I went through a house that I had built, a $50,000 car sitting in the driveway, the American dream, the proverbial white picket fence, and 2.5 kids literally at that time. And at that time, I remember I stopped cold and I said, oh my goodness, is this it? And I didn't have an answer for it. And I felt so lost. And I didn't know all of this stuff now that I teach, that I've consumed, that I've learned, that I've embedded in my life and my habits. I didn't know all of this stuff then. So shortly after, I'm divorced. And now I'm squeezed into a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 kids, half the time making no money and struggling my butt off. I remember eating spaghetti at every meal for a year and a half, you know, lost 25 pounds. And I was struggling. So I chose to keep my eyes wide open going through it. And one day, you know, I met my wife, and one day I said, you know, I'm a good guy. I didn't do everything right. Who does? I'm a good guy. I'm not the only person going through this. And so many times why men, women, people go left is because they have no one good to do things with and nowhere good to do it.
Powerful.
So
that's a show right there.
Right there. So I said, you know what? Because maybe church isn't for everybody. I was thinking, do I go to church? Who do I like listening to? What? So whatever your thing is, it may not be for everybody, or it may not be time for you. So I created my own thing. So at the time, it was called Men Evolving Now. And it was in my living room, a few guys that I knew, and then it grew straight to strangers that were in my living room. And then it kept growing. And the whole point was, how do you come here and go home or back to your life better than when you came? So it's not a guy's night out or a woman's night out where you come home relieved, which is valuable, but also better. So really came up with these forums, and it kept growing. So now we're renting out cafe spaces. Now we're doing conventions. And it started a women's division, a young men and women division. Then it got on college campuses. And so I, you know, obviously now I'm like, okay, I want to make this a business. As it continued to evolve, I remember the day I stood there, because we had 3 different titles and all of this. My daughter, my oldest daughter, she said, you know, you should call this You Evolving Now. And I said, no, I don't like that name, because I'm used to acronyms. I was calling it men or women. I'm like, yen, what's yen? I don't like
it. Yeah. Actually, that does sound pretty good, though, if you think about it. Yen, because it sounds like it's symbolic or something. Like but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, like I shot it down, you know, and then it made sense. You Evolving Now. It's a verb. It's a choice. It's something we all get to do, no matter the age you are or where you're at in life. We all get to choose to evolve, because change is going to happen. It's inevitable. And it always seems to shock us every time it happens, and tends to make us bitter, at least in the beginning. Change is inevitable. Growth and evolution is a choice. So let's choose to do that, because it's going to happen anyway. So let's choose to get the best out of it. So when it really evolved into that, I said, okay. However, I knew my business was going to die. Luis, I knew my business was going to die. And anybody have a business, a side business right then? I was an employee and doing this full time.
Yeah.
And it was going to die, not because it was a bad idea. It was going to die because I was competing with other people's time and money.
Listen up, folks.
I'm asking the strangers. First off, I'm always on. So I go to the gas station. Oh, you're a potential member. You're a potential. So you're always on.
Yeah.
And then this person might think it's a great idea. However, by the time they get home and they hit the couch, they're not coming back out. Not coming back out. And they have to pay their own money. So I saw membership dying, and then I didn't always want to be on. And now I'm marketing instead of impacting. I didn't want to do that. Even with the colleges, I'm getting paid based on, are the butts in the seat, not if it's great content. I don't want to be a marketer. So my business had to change. So I decided, where are people? They're at work, they're at school, and they're on their phones. My business, now your business, may need to be where the people are. And now I'm no longer asking for the people's money and time. I go to their job. They'll take a couple of minutes or hours off of work to come and listen to me, so they don't have to do their job. Great.
That's phenomenal.
And I'm asking for the company's money, not their money.
Yes, yes, yes. We'll come to you, man.
It'll come to you. So the people who wanted it now get to get it, and the people who didn't want it or didn't even know that they needed it are getting it, and they get to take it home, and they get to take it back to the job as a coworker, as a leader, and things like that.
Absolutely.
Now, the issue getting into the companies was really, I was big on personal development, personal growth, relationship growth. My second book is titled 7 Ways to Love.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
The companies pretty much, they can't say this out loud. However, it's in between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. However, we can meet our bottom line without that. So I'm like, well, wow. So you want leadership, but oh my goodness, I don't talk about leadership. And then I went back and I looked at all of those videos, all of that content that I was putting out. And I was already talking about leadership. I just had never said the word.
Yes, sir.
The day I added the word leadership to my content, boom.
Yeah.
And now I talk about both at companies, but I break down leadership in 2 different ways. And I encourage you, listeners, guys, break it down in 2 different ways. One is personal leadership. How we show up to our life, our work, and our relationships in a way that makes people want to follow you. Personal leadership. Let's do that first. Then we get into the hard skills of how to actually run a team and lead people, and then work-life harmony. You don't have to have balance all the time. Even if you could get it, it's hard to maintain it. We live in America. You go to work, and sometimes you go to work way more than you play.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Personal leadership is huge, man.
It's huge.
I mean, we all have to, like you said, we all have to lead ourselves. So you got to wake up in the morning and lead yourself. You got to wake up in the morning and get up and go at it again and again and again. That within itself will show where you're at in your leadership. Do you get up in the morning on time? Do you make your bed? I mean, we hear it all the time. Motivational speakers talking about it all the time, even Navy SEALs. I mean, do you get up in the morning and do you have a system? Do you have a routine? How do you lead your morning? Right. And so, man, I'm telling you, this leadership aspect, I seen that you spoke at, I think PPL. Did you speak at PPL?
Yes.
So yeah. And I'm like, my man is really doing this. Like he's really making this happen, man. So then when you get there, you start talking about, well, do you talk to corporate, or do you talk to the actual subordinates, to the workers, or is it everybody? How does that work?
Well, one, flexibility is the name of the game. You have a business flexibility. I do 2 things. My philosophy is this. I like bookending any organization that I'm working with. So whether it's a corporation, whether it's a team. So I like to do a cohort speaking about leadership and work-life harmony with my Evolve and Lead program or whatever for C-suite and middle management. So C-suite, the CEOs, CFOs, COOs, all of the O's, and middle management. Now, most people stop there. And I implore the organizations I work with to see me through, because I want to do a cohort for frontline employees too. Because this is what happens in most organizations and for trainings. They either bring in a great trainer, they send people to a great trainer. However, it's the emerging superstars, it's the CEOs or middle management. Now, what happens, they go to that training, they will only retain about 30% of what's given content-wise. Okay. By the time they come back, they're putting out fire after fire, handling the 200 plus emails they missed, and all of the things of the day and the tornado of things that they got to do, what I like to say, get to do. And that slaps out another 15%. So now they're supposed to pull the company forward and the team forward with the 10 to 15% that they have left that no one else knows that they got.
Wow.
And now people get busy being busy, and it was for naught.
Yeah.
I don't want to operate like that. So let's get this cohort great. Let's enhance leadership and work-life harmony for the leaders. And now let's give some of the same content to the frontline employees, because that is where you're going to most likely promote from within anyway.
Absolutely.
And then they say, well, so now everybody's speaking the same language. Everybody's ready to move forward together in expectations and accountability. And one of the biggest complaints that I hear from organizations is our leaders don't know how to lead. And I say, well, why the heck would they? They sold $1 million worth of product. You made them the sales manager. They didn't know. That doesn't mean that they know how to lead anything. It means Absolutely. They know how to sell $1 million worth of product their way. Absolutely. And when other people don't do it their way, they don't know how to handle that. Why would they? So let's enhance everyone. And with that, I created a pre-recorded version that can go in their onboarding process, because you're not going to bring me in every time, there's turnover or somebody gets promoted. But that's my philosophy. I'm really big on that.
Man, in this day and age now, and I'm just going to be very blunt, the lack of parenting, the lack of leadership in our homes, an individual like you or your business or your company or individuals like you being able to come in and kind of like not necessarily fix that, but give another way of learning is huge. And even for adults, because even we can get all the way to adulthood and never even know what leadership is or even, I mean,
I was 30.
Yeah. How old are you?
I was 30. I was a rep. Like I had, if you follow me around and visually looked at me up until 30 years old, I had my briefcase, I had nice clothes, nice car. I had a position of leadership. However, I didn't know how to lead anything or anybody or myself. I knew my content, I knew my craft, and I was good at that. However, I had a lot of evolving to do. And that's fair. Some people do it at 15, given life circumstances. Some people do it at 20. Some people do it at 70. It's knowing where you're at, but also being able to give yourself, because we get so busy being busy, we stop learning.
Oh, yeah. Stop evolving. Hence
we stop evolving. We stop right away. So I'm big on that part. And the biggest compliment I get when I go back to companies is that our people are speaking differently with each other. And then people come pull me to the side. Hey, what you said really worked at home. Because I share the 5 points of your day. You talk about how you wake up. There's 4 more points of that day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
4 more points to focus. You focus on that, I guarantee you can have the life of your dreams. I guarantee it.
People got to go to your website, man, because I'm going to tell you right now, I perused his website the last week or so or the last month or so when I asked you to be on the show. And I'm like, there's so much knowledge on that. The written blogs alone. I mean, there's so many Forge This, the 3 ABCs. I mean, it's just amazing. And for me, someone who is seeking to keep learning, trying to evolve into, a person of leadership, because I don't think there's a point where you're going to be like, oh, I'm perfect at leadership. Right. You need to go to Andre Young's website and really, really look and see and other institutes like YouTube. I mean, there's other speakers. There's a lot of, it's just, you just got to continue to evolve in that. So I love it. So I looked at you said you had 4 books, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about, or the titles of each 4 books, just a tiny bit. I know I don't want to give too much because people can get the books, and where can they find them?
Well, the titles of the book, the first book you can't even get. I count it as a book because it's my first baby, and it's a compilation of quotes and questions. So it's called Evolve. And I put that together because when we're on college campuses, students can come and they would get a t-shirt and a free book. So it's not something you could get at like Barnes and Noble or Amazon. The next book is actually called Evolve. It's the published version of it.
Awesome.
So I wanted to create a coffee table book, so to speak. And when I was a kid, I had a vision. I had a vision of a book with a question mark on the cover.
Oh.
And it had questions in it, like questions that you could just open up and either answer yourself or ask somebody else. So I always had that. So I was sitting down for coffee with a friend of mine many years ago, and I said, I have this. And he said, why not? And it stopped me in my tracks because I didn't have a good enough answer of why not. And anything I said would have been crapping on myself. So I encourage all of you listening, whatever your goal, whatever your dream, why not? So I went home and I wrote it, so that's something dope. That's out there, and it's not content based. It's a quote and then a question related to that quote.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anybody
that's unique within itself, and definitely, yeah.
Well, and awesome. I love doing it with family and things like that because you don't know their answer. You don't know it.
Yeah.
And it allows you, especially when you're in long-term relationships and you hit that rut, to have something different to talk about.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The book after that was 7 Ways to Love. And it's the 7 things that make or break all relationships. And I don't promise that you're going to have the relationship of your dreams. What I do promise is that you're going to be able to put your head on the pillow in peace every night, knowing you did what you needed to do. And it's those 7 things. And it's for self-love. It's for love in your relationships. It's for love within your family. And then my latest book is 7 Ways to Lead. So it takes us through all of the aspects of leading. So a leader's preparation. How do you prepare to be a leader? You know, a leader's confidence. Not every leader, your boss may not be as secure as you think.
Absolutely.
There's bosses out there. They're like, can I do this job? You know, is this a job for me? You know, what happens if they have those same insecurities you might have? They just get paid a little bit more with a whole lot more emails.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So it walks you through a leader's preparation, a leader's confidence, a leader's gratitude. You know, I saw TGIF. Thank God it's today. Most people are TGIFing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and expect to have a good life and a great life. Don't work like that.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
The daily things it takes to lead, a leader's risk. How do you do that? And then, you know, my favorite, the leader 7. The 7 languages your people need, want, and benefit most hearing from leadership. And leaders enjoy hearing back from their people.
Absolutely. Good leaders.
You have to be able to speak all
Good
7.
leaders.
However, each of your people have a top 1 or 2. Do we know it? Stop guessing. Stop guessing. We'll know it, and then we can speak it. Therefore, we're always leading with their motivation.
Love
those are the books.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I hope to write a book one day, but I can tell you, I've seen a lot of folks write books. It is a huge undertaking. I'm sure you put in a lot of hours.
You know what? Yes and no. The way most people, the way I originally thought of writing a book was sitting down from page 1 and writing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, I could. That's not my thing. I've never written a book like that. What I do, well, first off, I didn't even want to write. I was hands down against it. You know, I started my.
I mean, I think it's a huge undertaking, but that's why we're here today, folks.
Yeah,
we're gonna learn something today.
Anybody wants to write a book. This is how I did it. Please use it if you like it.
Awesome.
Friend of mine said, look, you're gonna have to bump up and write on your website if you want to bump up your SEOs. I didn't even know what SEOs were. And I was like, heck no, I'm getting out of the mental health field. I don't want to write one more thing, because I was used to writing 40 pages worth of progress notes a day, you know?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I married my dream. When you marry your dream, you don't marry the path. Marry your dream, but not the path. Whatever you want, it's got to wiggle and squiggle sometimes. You know, you got to do some things you may not want to do. And writing was one of them. But I said, I married my dream. I'm going to do it. Let's see how long it takes for me to write a blog or article. So it was a Sunday morning. I put a timer on my phone. My first blog ever took me 25 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I was writing 3 days a week. I committed 3 days a week for 25 minutes each. I could do that. I will do that. Now I do 1 day a week on a Sunday still, and it may be like an hour. So what I do is I write 1 day a week, and I write and I post it. So you can put it on social media, you can do LinkedIn, you can do whatever, put it on your website, whatever it is. What it does is it's hard to write these things and not live them. It starts embedding in your brain, and then you start titling it. So yeah, I know a lot of stuff. I also title it, and it's mine. So when somebody asks me something, I get to say, oh yeah, that's a leader's quota, or that's the leader's 3. So it even is more mine. It's more mine. It's not a bunch of information. It's wrapped up. I wrap it up in a nice bow.
Yeah.
So you don't have to write a lot. I write often. I have no idea. I never knew what my next book was going to be. However, when I had the idea, I knew it was already written because I've been writing it. I got 2 years worth of stuff right there. Luiz said, look, his stuff is all over. Well, it's when I have the idea for a book, now I go back and I pick, okay, I like this. And now the work is maybe I need to add 10 chapters. Maybe I need to take away, and the bigger part is just organizing. What's the flow? What's the format?
Awesome.
So when you do that, when I started doing that, the books write themselves.
Yeah.
It's committing to that dedication and that consistency 1 day a week on a Sunday before my family gets up, before the kids get up and all heck breaks loose.
Yeah.
All right. So that was what works for me. And like my next book is already written. I simply won't release it for another year because I just put a book out December. You need to let that digest.
Yeah, saturate. Yeah, absolutely. So content creators, there you go. If you're creating content every day, as far as written content, or, you know, putting out content. That's stuff that you can use. And I didn't think about it that way. It's that simple. You know, I talk to my son and I talk to my kids all the time. It's like, oh, Dad, well, you know, I don't like reading. I said, well, you know, I didn't like reading as a kid either. I said, but this is how I did it. So I simplified it, just like you simplified it right now for me. I simplified it for them. Say, read as much as you can. If it's one sentence, if it's a paragraph, well, you read that night. Sometimes you're going to read, you know, 4 paragraphs or even 2 chapters because you just feel like you're into the book. Yeah. And then before you know it, that book's done. You know, and I think we put a lot of pressure, like I just did right now with like writing a book. I made it into this entity, right? Mm-hmm. And by you simplifying it, man, I appreciate that. That's an awesome way to look at it. Obviously, something I'm definitely going to look into. So I have one more question. And I always ask my guests, if you could give yourself, your 19-year-old self, a piece of advice, looking back, what would it be?
Wow. The first thing that comes to mind is what I talked about earlier in the show is the get great question. I was always motivated to do whatever I wanted to do. So whatever that thing was for me, and whether it was sports and now it's, you know, leadership, whatever it was, my wife right now, you know what I mean? I love that woman.
Find your wife.
You know, you always want to tend to do it, especially when you're a go-getter personality. I want to do it, and I want to do it the way I want to do it. And when it doesn't meet the deepest need of the other person receiving it, it can create resentment and frustration. And whether that's you being on a team and think you should, bully word, be getting more time. Well, you could get, for instance, my son has the best jump shot, and I'll say this hands down, best jump shot in Berks County. You hand it to him, he's going to knock it down.
You heard it here first.
No, he's going to knock it down. Yeah. Best jump shot, you know, in the county. However, he couldn't get off the bench his junior year. So he asked his coach to get great question, Coach, how do I get more time? Not I deserve more time or this is bull, whatever. What do I need to do? The coach said, you need to play better defense. And he said, what? He said, my son said you need to get stronger. And my son's allergic to the weight room. He doesn't like the weights at all, you know? And he's like, well, why do I have to get stronger? And the coach said, you get stronger, you play better defense. You play better defense, you get more steals. You get more steals, you get easier layups. That adds 10 to 15 points to your game. And colleges like scorers.
Awesome.
Now, the answer he got may not be the answer he wanted. And when you don't get the answer you want, what's reasonable, doable, and fair for who you are and what you want? And you do it a little bit outside your comfort zone, but not so much that you get so frustrated and bitter towards the person and the task. So have a great jump shot, improve your defense. The coach is happy. You're playing more. Boom.
And you become better better overall.
Otherwise, you got a great jump shot on bench. Otherwise, you say you're a great husband or a great wife, but your partner is upset all the time, not fulfilled. You want to get better at getting the work on time, and your boss might need this, whatever it is. So I would learn, what I would give my 19-year-old self advice is marry the things that you want to do with what the person receiving it needs most. And that's what I would do.
Awesome, man. That right there, folks, is amazing. I can tell you this, my 19-year-old self would take that advice and I will be 10 times better than I am now today. Obviously, we are who we are. We've gone through what we've gone through in our life. And now it's our job and our duty and our mission to help that 19-year-old young person with a message today and the stuff that you talked about today. So I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. Just a disclaimer, my last guest, this show was shot, episode 8 was shot, obviously before this. You talked about superpowers. He talked about superpowers. You guys need to connect because now everybody's talking about superpowers. But listen, this was a great show. Again, thank you so much, Andre, for coming on our show, man. Evolving now is extremely, extremely important, folks. Find my man's website. So, real quick before we go, where can people find you?
Sure, a few different places. youevolvingnow.com. So it's YOU youevolvingnow.com. You can also go to Andre Young on Facebook. Now, I'm not Dr. Dre. Me and him have the same name. I'm not Dr. Dre. It's Andre Young on Facebook, or on LinkedIn, You Evolving Now. You want the books, you can go to Amazon. It's also on the website, Barnes & Noble, wherever you get books. And I love reaching out to people. So reach out, love to connect, and see how I can be of value and impact.
Awesome. Awesome. Again, thank you so much for being on the show, man. It's an honor to have you on. You are very established. You are ready to rock, and you're going to continue evolving. This show right here is near and dear to me because of the leadership aspect. Everybody knows me here and where I'm from. They know I was really big, and I still am, obviously, on leadership, personal leadership, and helping folks understand what that really means. So thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Episode 9 is in the books. Evolving Now. We want to thank my man, Andre, for being on the show. Don't forget to subscribe. Please, please, please show some love, and we'll show you some love.